session. I'll move. I have a motion by Lappin. Do we have support?
I'll support that.
Supported by Kroll. We are now back into budget session at 1:05 p.m. And we are at a point within this where we are now into public safety, Department 336. Just to touch base on a couple of the numbers, we'll start there. So we'll start with 205-336-401-000. I just confirmed with Chris in terms of both of the equipment millage and the fire department millage, both of his proposed numbers as to having finished the first round of veterans, poverty exemptions and everything else. Are both correct, as you know, as accurate as we can predict. Is at 205-000-403-001 fire equipment millage is at $225,090, and the fire millage is
That's collected already?
that's what we will be collecting.
Okay.
And the primary operating millage, yes.
Are you talking about the whole millage, the 205-326-401-000?
For the year.
Right, the 519.
Yes.
For
Public
both.
safety. 001, it's 225.90.
Revenues.
Why are those separated, Nathan?
What?
Why are those separated, not all on the same line? Fire department millage and fire equipment millage.
They have to be separated because they're two different millages.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm sorry, why is it underneath fire department?
In terms of, are you looking at 205-000-403-001 and why it's listed?
Up there rather than underneath the fire department millage.
It actually is in both. Well, no, it actually, let me see.
Oh, is that, when it says Department 000, is that just general fund?
No. I now have to go back a page.
Looks like it is.
Because this would be the start of, because 205 is public safety.
Otherwise, above it says Department 000.
Yeah, I did give you an exact answer in terms of that, Norm. I do not have an answer for
Okay.
that,
All right.
except for that is the only appropriate public safety line item that would show that revenue.
I don't, okay, so the fire equipment millage public safety, you're talking about 225,090.
Correct.
Is what you anticipate.
Yes,
And then the 519,440 is for the fire protection.
That's for the
that is
operating.
the operating millage.
It's fire protection is what it's called. It's not, well, I call it fire protection.
Well,
But anyway, so that's the other one, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that 000 doesn't really make sense. Seems like it should be 336.
I tend to agree, but since
We should check into it and double
since
check
we-
it,
yeah.
make sure it's right.
it was the only,
No, I
Descriptive.
just think we should check into it and make sure that it
okay,
maybe shouldn't be 336.
could you check into that?
Yeah.
The 225,090 and the 519,440, we have now received those funds and they're in the bank. Is that correct?
I'd have to look at total collections.
But I'm asking Mark.
Okay, so you're asking me if we've collected all the money?
Yeah,
Okay, we've collected whatever we can collect here. And then,
but which is like maybe 95% of the money?
I don't know exactly the percentage.
Somewhere around there.
But anyway, so, but I still will be getting maybe equal with the county. And total, because I asked her the other day, I said, how much are we expecting to get from you for everything, for, you know, our operating and everything? And it's about 100,000.
But what we're projecting here, this is what we're supposed to get, and we're gonna get pretty damn close to that.
Mhm.
Just so, okay.
Yep. Yeah. So let's just continue to move right down the line. Grants, This is under a revenue. I had it at 5,000. We've seen, this is the past year's activity in terms of revenue from grants at 49.99. I feel that this hopefully anticipate that we're looking at the same level of grants
Or more.
or more. It's never a bad thing to be a higher number. And then continuing on, this is where the liaison officer falls into public safety, which it's under fire department, but can't really make too many clarifications. Past years, we've funded, and as far as I know, even with the new officer, we're anticipating the same expenditure rate for 50% of the truancy officer, which is line item 205-336-692-020 at $38,606. Cash, would you have any other?
I would just say that that's a good use of the township's funds.
Yeah.
It is.
No, it's a great service for the
It
kids.
is a wonderful benefit to that school.
Did we skip over the other ones for a reason?
Because there's nothing, Mr. Paul.
The 38,606, you got this as income.
I was just gonna.
These are
Well, the county pays, or the county's paying half, right, we're paying half?
Is that our half?
We pay half of it.
Half of
But-
that or half of something?
No, the total salary is
So it's a revenue
38,606
comes
times
from the
two.
general fund.
But where does this 38 grand come from?
From the general. Well, now it's funded, since we separated it into public
Right.
safety.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, so we're taking out of the general fund and putting into the public safety fund this 38 grand for the TVJ officer.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to do a journal entry to move the money from general into public safety.
As it stands, until we can actually create, when we're done with the chart of accounts.
Yeah, so that will need to be done, because I just need to know we need to do that.
Cash, did you say the county will pay half that?
Yeah, we pay one half and the county
Yeah.
pays one half of the officer's salary.
Historically, it was based on a third. Alpena Public Schools paid a third of that individual's wage, we paid a third, and the county paid a third. And now, for the past,
Let me understand
Yes,
that.
but look into it.
If the county pays half of the 38,
no, they
Oh,
pay the other 38,606.
so this is a $74,000 job?
Yes,
Oh, I
Benefits
got
and
you.
Seventy
car
cents.
and.
77.2.
With benefits and all that stuff.
Everything.
Okay, I got you. Okay, all right, thank you.
Not a problem.
You know, realistically, the school should be paying a third of that, they're not, but
The village passes, they're gonna be paying it all.
Well, and I think what would behoove this board, and I've already had some conversations with Under Sheriff King, is that we get some participation from our other townships that have students coming from those townships.
Nice.
So not every student comes from the Charter Township of Alpena, but moving forward is medical transfers, non-emergency.
Can you back up to the donations? Because there wasn't a number in there for donations.
are we expecting a
Yeah.
donation?
Well, I mean, 500 is not unreasonable in a year to think that, same thing with the cadet program.
And yet, we already did get a donation for the cadet program, the 187. Do you want to put both of those potentially at 500?
Well, before we do that, if we leave it at 0, and if we get 500, then we're way over budget. At 0.
Yeah.
So probably smarter to leave it at 0 than to put a number in.
I mean, they're donations, you can't really anticipate.
You can't rely on it.
Yeah. So I'm just moving on to the next sound line item, which is medical transfers, non-emergency, 20.
What's the rebate one? Medical run rebate.
We don't
That's
get that
gone.
anymore.
Yeah, that's
Oh, 0, okay, I'm sorry.
The city used to, or the county used to give it to us.
Gotcha.
Yes, and that was to the tune of $40,000 annually from the ambulance fund, from the county commissioners. We were told that even the remainder of this fiscal, they froze the program, which is a $40,000 annual hit to the fire department that they won't get for those runs.
Bummer.
Moving on to the next medical transfers, 205-336-698-030. Yes, Mr. Foley.
Where did that number come from?
I just had to, that did not come from the chief. I looked at activity of $320,699 where we had funded or a portion for $190,000.
So this is one of the things that we're trying to assess currently with our CPA is trying to establish.
That is one of the things that they'll be looking at.
Yes, okay.
So is that a pretty accurate number then, Laura?
Well, according to what our amended budget was, it's, I would say yes.
I mean,
Compared-
So we've taken,
compared to that.
in 320,000.
That's the activity. I don't do those entries, so I'm just looking at activity. And this does, the complexity therein lies in what are the expenditures associated with
Right,
such revenues.
right.
So that's what we're really.
But it was amended down to 190, and then it's budgeted for 200.
I brought it back up into the proposed budget as an uptick, looking at the fact that we had 320,699.
Right.
That's a significant
So-
difference.
So what's the proposed then? Is it 200 or is it?
That was the proposed, was
Oh.
$200,000.
But we don't know what that number will ever be.
So there.
Unfortunately, that's one of those things that it's also contingent upon people's need. So,
I felt safe at 200. If it's over, it's a revenue line item. It's
Absolutely.
not a negative to our budget moving forward,
Correct.
so. So 200,000 remains. This has just pretty much been consistent at contractual services. I left at $2,500.
so it seems like that would be an expense.
I think this is revenue we get from Maple Ridge Township for mutual aid
Yeah.
agreement.
Oh. okay.
This is for our mutual aid agreement that we have with, as Laura had stated, from Maple Ridge solely to provide functions in the development, which is off of Lake Winnie Road, opposite side of Long
Oh, yeah.
Rapids
yeah.
River, because of the time that it takes for them to.
Long Rapids River. Just kidding.
It's a river and it's got rapids and it's long. Moving on.
So we're getting rid of the general fund contribution.
Well, there again, I was given two proposed budgets. I would say let's hold off on that solely for the fact that let's work through the primary budgeting aspects in the fire department and we can come back. Because, that would be the determination of the ebb and flow, if you will. And then into, and these were the same proposed from interim chief Dave Robbins, who, just so everybody on this board is aware of, has medical issues taking place. And hopefully we'll find out more soon. So his recommendation was $300,000 on both of his proposals.
Can we back up to the banking fees, because we should put something in there as an expense?
And what would you like the banking fees?
I mean, you could do.
$200, $250?
250 is good. I mean, just to put something in there to
Okay.
allocate that. Oh, okay, sorry, now we go on.
Okay, so 250 and 205-100-770-000. Moving on to salary payable. This was in both of his proposals, the same figure. So I just used his figures. So he proposed 300,000. He's the interim chief.
So I just wanna ask a question. So we have the other union contract done, this one is not done yet. So let's say through this process, they
Then we'll have to amend.
the budget to
Correct.
reflect if there's raises or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, that's an unknown, so
Okay.
I'm using the proposed that came from the interim chief.
Okay, thank you.
As business as usual, this was zero. I would recommend that to leave it as par for the course, we put that back to 32.
Yeah, I was
That was,
wondering why it would be zero now.
because that was one of his proposals.
Huh. Would we not have where would that be paid from?
That was one of his proposals,
Okay.
Steve, so I just
All right.
looked at, but I would make the recommendation that we go back to 32,000 for the time being,
Put
because
it back in.
there are a lot of unknowns that we'll continue to work through.
I agree.
Continuing on, non-emergency pay, this he had redacted out. I think that we should, there again, look at the 18-19 amended budget for the time being and anticipate that $40,000.
Would that be paid for those people that take non-medical transfers?
Exactly.
Well, I do nothing, obviously.
There again,
Well,
I had two
I
proposals.
think we have to put 40.
So I think where some of these, where there's zero, we'll go back to last year's numbers for the time being so that we can go through contracts.
Makes sense to me.
Paid on call, his proposed was for $75,000.
I wonder why.
I think because he's looking at a salary reduction in full-time staff and a higher rate of utilization of our paid on call and hope.
Cause it kinda looks like he zeroed out the non-emergency pay, but almost added that to his paid on call number to come up with 75. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's kinda what he did, is combined
And
it.
unfortunately, he's not here, I just had his proposals. So,
Are we gonna bring anybody in from the fire department?
well, would you like to, I mean,
Well, cause Mark Hall had expressed to me yesterday that Honeycutt could come in and answer some of these questions if we needed him to.
if you'd like to give him a call, he's not on duty.
Oh, I was under the impression he was.
Oh, I didn't see his truck. I can,
Let me double check, make sure.
let me, cause I believe I saw Clement's truck, but I can peek out the window and see if I see a maroon Chevy. Easy enough.
Oh, John will be coming to sit, okay, so John, yeah, we can bring comments in, maybe he can answer some of these questions.
Well, somebody's better than nobody, I suppose.
Yeah, let's do that. I'd be curious.
Go get
Do you
'em.
want me to go get him, or you
Cash, why don't you go get him, you're spry.
There you go. Here, you saying I'm old?
I'm just
Yeah.
using the
I can
Kroll
see that you take
delegation.
that.
Should have used that, you're closest to the door.
So,
Because it kinda
Is-
does
is-
look,
While he's doing that, is there a difference between paid on call and salary payable?
yes. Salary payable is for six full-time and 2 8-hour employees.
Okay.
Those are our full-time staff.
Okay.
Paid on call are such as myself, firefighter 1, 2, if I only get paid in proper response to a scene that I
Okay.
provide services.
Okay. As essentially as a trained volunteer.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Paid on call is a trained, yes.
As we go through these, is the south side hall, and of course the west hall is next to nothing, expenses and on this sheet?
I went by Chief Robbins' proposal.
so we really don't know absolutely for sure unless we ask.
Well,
him.
maybe we'll know once this guy comes in.
Yeah, well, and there again, this is, I think we all know that this is gonna be semi-gray until we finalize the union contract, and at which point in time we'll make proper amendments to the budget there. But Dave Robbins' suggestion was at $75,000 for paid on call, so. But we'll wait for, see if Clements, but Clements is on duty, so if Clements has to leave, he's gotta,
Yeah, of course. Is there a flat fee for a volunteer?
it's somewhat flat for, I believe my rate is based on longevity. I think I'm at $11 an hour. Other paid on call that have been here for years and helping the township are at $14 an hour, but it is a flat.
And it's obviously based
Well, I mean,
on
I know it sounds
Yeah.
stupid.
beginning and end. So really, it's hard to come up with
It should feed its fine, it should.
it's hard to come up with a 75,000.
So, okay,
Maybe not. So, like that. I don't know.
Good morning.
Hey, John Clements.
Afternoon. John is on a transfer right at this second, and I may be the one across town.
Okay, well, then we'll try to be quick with you, but that way you're here to help the board.
Okay, I will do my best.
Okay,
He hasn't gotten anybody yet, so nobody else calls in on me.
okay, Southside's, interacting with the public. Paid on call fire salary, Dave has it at $75,000. Year-to-date activity is $58,393.
Okay. He's proposing 75,000.
He's proposing $75,000.
Okay, and currently we're at how much?
$58,393.
And your question is?
That's about a 30%, that's about a 30% increase.
The only thing I can say that Chief is relating that to is because the call volume increase that we have had in the last year or 2 years has been steadily increasing. You know, it's just been going up and up and up.
I mean,
Looking back at January, we're already 51 ahead in the month of January. We didn't calculate February yet to see if we're ahead. So it's a steady incline. We've seen an increase. And that's due in part to the emergency transport.
Well, there's actually a separate line item. Well, actually, that was, Laura had made an observation that the notice on that sheet, the non-emergency pay was at 0.
that was his,
And so Laura's observation may be pretty spot on, that if the number of non-emergency is at 0, and if the on-call is at 75, it almost works out, the math works out.
Like it was combined.
I wonder if that's what he did.
That's a very good possibility. That makes sense.
Okay, it does
so
make sense.
75,000 is a fair recommendation from Dave.
Yes, it is.
But should,
I am
That would
gonna-
mean that the
You have to go.
I have to go, if I'm not getting anybody.
but really, shouldn't those numbers be separated?
They should be.
Yeah,
I mean, my opinion, that they should be separated.
Yes, I don't think so. Why don't we take that 75 to,
30 and make the other one 40?
well, I was gonna.
Go back to what
caution.
I'll be back.
I was gonna suggest that
So it's
75
60
or
or-
like 50.
Well, and this is the conundrum we're faced. We're talking about, and I have at least an inkling with the
Yeah.
medical
Yeah.
emergency services, but it's just guesstimations based on, unfortunately, our interim chief who's not present to give explanations to the reasons that he proposed. So if that is the direction of the board,
Well, it
to go
still,
to,
even if we went 55, it's still appreciably higher than 75, since we put 40 in the non-pay. Still a big increase. You follow me?
I'm just waiting to plug in the numbers.
But it's
that-
kind of in the ballpark of the 58,393.
So what is the recommendation?
50 or 55?
I'd say 55.
Okay,
We would still be above where our budgeted numbers are.
And leave 40 for the one above.
Correct, that's what we're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay, in-house training, we had it funded at $400. They only had activity of $77, but Dave had it at 0.
Is there a requirement for continuing education?
Yes,
Is that where the line item would be then?
I would make that assumption of yes, that's
I'm
where.
just looking- I'm
But
just looking to
continuing
see if it's-
education, what they do in terms of in-house training
Yeah,
is that whoever's on staff, i.e. actually a training officer just left on a call, he performs, that's part of his salary task, is to do trainings. What we
Oh.
do then is pay, if it's an hour training or 2-hour training, an hourly rate for all the paid on calls who attend said training.
oh, okay.
So the materials, this is only really, I look at it as what materials would be a potential that they need
So
for
what if it
it.
went from 400 to 200?
Okay.
I don't
That's-
disagree.
So this is where I'm gonna need you to, Laura, or Dana, to please plug in, Cause life insurance, full-time and or paid on call, Steve, all those ancillaries would really fall under like a high rate of emergency services, correct?
Yeah,
So then we would be looking at a combined total of, 377,000 of combined salary.
and so we
Oh,
had
okay.
so we had about 390,000 combined salary in the earlier, budget, the column to the left. That would be, so that $360 under that line item is,
Well, okay,
I'm in-
which line item, right?
I'm in the 2018-19 amended budget.
Okay,
So those payrolls are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 400,000.
yeah.
And so,
Our payrolls for the 6 full-timers are at, I believe, year-to-date, 391.
so in our proposed 1920 budget, our overall salary isn't that much higher. So is the 360
There-
more accurate than
well,
800?
The 360 over the 800, where are you finding this 800?
Life
Oh,
insurance.
okay, life insurance. Okay, so we're talking about life insurance.
Right.
Well, the salaries are what were just recommended, which would be at 377,000.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question about that number? Wouldn't you be including the 55 in that as well?
I did, I had included the 55, the
Yeah.
32 for the chief, deputy chief, and the full-time officer.
And what about the 40?
40 is for non-emergency pay, I mean,
Right, I'm
you
just
could add,
asking,
I mean,
should it be added or should it not be added? That's my question.
obviously, it's still a salary for both groups of individuals, so yeah, so it'd be
so that's
Yeah.
$417,000,
427.
427. Thank you very much for the correction on the
No
mail.
problem. So that,
Pulled it off.
if 360 is reasonable on the previous budget, then 800 would be, one of those is wrong.
There again,
I suppose 800 makes sense.
these proposed numbers came directly from Chief
No, I
Robbins.
get it, but I mean,
so
just in
I
terms of
can't answer.
percentage, in terms of percentage, it
They
seems
would
800
re-
would be reasonable.
I believe so,
Okay.
so,
Okay, so next one?
next line item is employer social security,
Is 26,474.
so 27,000 is pretty spot on.
There you go. Who said that? You did, didn't you? Medicare,
Medicare,
6,192.
so 6,200 as it's stated in the proposed, is a sound number.
Now,
Health insurance, Blue Cross, Blue Shield.
where is that? And then the John Hancock, because this has our pay on call and that amount, so. we'll have to figure
We have it as Blue Cross Blue Shield at 104,000,
it.
317.
Yeah, he had to.
It's,
That's for health insurance,
that is for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
104,000?
$104,317.
So we're $14,000 increase.
So what number are we putting in there?
10437.
140,000.
So you are putting in 104,317?
These were the
Yes.
annual Blue Cross Blue
Okay.
Shield broken out for this year.
I didn't know if you were rounding it up.
Well, if, I rounded it up by $1, because it was $104,316.12.
Oh, okay.
So, since you can't unfortunately round down in regards to payments, and budgets don't like decimal points, 317 it is.
And that doesn't work?
It does not work. So continuing on, paid uncalled insurance, that has not been utilized at all. We had it funded at $4,700 for last year, but there's zero activity, and Dave Robbins brought forward a zero anticipated line item there.
So paid on call people, do they fall under the Blue Cross Blue Shield? or-
No,
No.
no, no.
So we wouldn't just, we don't offer it to paid on call?
No,
So
if
that's why
we
it's-
offer
yeah.
Blue Cross Blue Shield to paid on call with our roster as it currently stands, our Blue Cross Blue Shield would be nearly $500,000 for the fire insurance. So moving on to vehicle insurance, his proposed was $12,000. I tend to agree with that, hopefully get rid of them.
Have we bought it since August 7th of 2018? Have we bought any new fire vehicles?
And what this budget has to account for is what that millage will do in terms of purchasing new equipment. So that was his anticipated get rid of some of the dilapidated equipment with the purchase of new. So that's where
So
that
the
uptick.
values would go up a little bit. Maybe the number of units may not go up, but the overall average value.
Correct.
I would think the 12,000 is high. I would think that if you made it 10,000, you'd be probably okay, but frankly, I'd rather err on the side of caution.
So leave it at
I think
12,000.
so.
Okay, moving on. You still have that up? John Hancock.
Well, this one's gonna be weird, because in that 427,000, is that paid on call in
No.
that? Okay, so that's just the full-time.
That's full timers.
Okay, $40,565.
Okay, you said the paid on call is not included in that? I thought it was.
And Jan Hancock?
Oh,
No,
I'm
they
sorry.
shouldn't be, right?
No.
Okay.
No, but what, I think maybe this is where we're erring on, because this is where you'd actually, for this calculation, we'd have to have, instead of 427, we'd have to have the reduction of the $55,000.
Got it.
From,
That's-
so that number is errant in terms of this calculation. So $427,000
Mhm.
minus $55,000. And then we'll have,
That's why I was asking, because I knew they get the Bright House, minus 55,
Yes.
correct.
372, sound good?
372.
372,000.
Oh.
Me and this one.
37,000.
So is that gonna change everything? John Hancock is gonna be 35,340.
$35,340 for unit shares of pension, John Hancock. HSA contribution, she has this broken out as well, I believe, annual.
Payroll's up, so wouldn't that number be up a little?
So HSA contribution is spot on at 14,300.
Okay.
Fire prevention, he wanted an increase up to $2,000. I think that's part of our goal is to prevent fires, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tend to agree with his
What if we
proposal.
what if we bump that up to 200,000 and then did away with the fires altogether?
Well, we just had one this morning on 23 South,
So it's,
you know. But, and to be mindful, always a terrible thing, but our emergency response out of, let's say, 100% pie, 5% or less are actually for fires. So it is luckily very low, but workers' compensation,
Well, it's gonna be weird, because remember this little formula's off. I have $12.35.
well, that would be one of the highest codes, and you would have to include the on-call. So that
Exactly.
$427,000 payroll times whatever the applicable rate is would be accurate.
so that would be the $427,000 number. This paid on call is involved.
Times the 12.35.
Yeah.
No, that is not right,
No,
not
it wouldn't be that- No, it wouldn't be that
5,270,000.
high a rate. It's probably, it's 427.
Our year-to-date activity is at $46,200. His proposal was at $45,000.
Remember, I gave Michelle the rates somewhere.
She has $12.35.
Is it that high rate?
That's what it says on this.
Well, they're for firemen too, so wouldn't it cost more?
Well, it costs more, but it's also because of the experience mod is so high. Wow. You gotta bump that up to about 50,000. I'm really hoping that this year that has a big reduction.
Okay, so $50,000 for 205-336-718-000, $50,000. Next line item, office supplies. He asked for an increase to $2,500, given consideration that year-to-date they've used $1,768. I think that's
Reasonable.
reasonable.
They're not gonna make any copies.
Well, and that is a misnomer. We actually do, because they have codes, they use the same, I would say,
$5.
500, I mean, when they do all their in-house training,
Oh,
they're produced here. So I would say 500,
okay.
because then that would also put a little bit in the kitty towards the lease of the equipment.
So how much is that?
205-336-727-010 copies, 500.
Okay, and the one above it was fine.
It was at $2,500
Yeah.
per Dave's
Okay.
recommendation. Computer hardware, I think that's a sound number as well, at $2,000. Medical operational supplies, he left at $13,000.
Is that like Band-Aids and that
Gloves,
kind of stuff?
Gloves, combi tubes, nasal airways, mask,
Okay.
gloves is probably the primary thing that we go through a lot of. Any kind of CPR equipment, because we do a lot of CPR, AED pads, combi tubes, those types of things.
so Dave's proposal was at 13. Activity this year is at 12,568. I think that's a fair
Yeah, I don't.
Anticipated.
that at all.
expense. Fire operational supplies, Dave had it at $2,000. $1,522. I think that 2,000 that's a $1,000 increase from last year. I'll heed his expertise there. Gas and oil.
Yeah, I would vote that.
Well, his recommendation was at 5,000. Obviously, we're over budget egregiously this year at $2,000 over budget.
Yeah, how do you budget this one? You don't have any clue what the cost of gas is gonna be.
Cost of gas, mileage,
Yeah, all that-
etc.
All that.
Any recommendations?
With that new gas card setup that we're supposed to be doing, that was proposed by DPW, do we get a discounted rate on that one? Lock in at a certain?
I think there is some.
So that may help, otherwise it's just a projection.
Yeah.
I would say let's go to 6,000.
I don't disagree.
And that was proposed by the board.
Yep.
But the DPW director was,
Supposed to line that up, and obviously we have health concerns that have inhibited moving forward in a timely manner. But there again, Dave's proposal on gas and oil for non-emergency is at 0 when
It doesn't make sense.
that's at $9,303. So
what's the difference between non-emergency gas and oil and regular gas and oil?
non-emergency is for transfers only.
So when we do the transfers, when that money is gone through to show we use medical supplies, gas and oil as those expenses to come off of the money that comes in from non-emergency.
So we would wanna put a number in there.
I would say let's be safe and say 9,000, and if we need to amend,
Right,
Use 9,300.
Yeah.
That'd be 10.
I'd go
10,
10.
okay? $10,000 it is. Gas and oil, EMS 911. His recommendation was at 5, we're at 4,467, I think that's fair. Uniforms, his recommendation was to actually have a dip to 3,000, which still encompasses any activity. So I agree with his at 3,000. Paid on call, PPE, we dipped it to 5, because I do believe, and help me if I'm off base here, Tom, we actually, just this past year, replaced paid on call PPE, like
Both paid on call
paid
and
on call
full-time
and
staff
full time.
received new gear, I believe it was like 10 sets.
Yeah,
total that came through. We had some grant money that got filtered in there. There was a bunch of different.
It went on my credit card.
Right.
Because wasn't there a mistake, they made double or something, and
I'm not,
Yeah.
privy to the whole thing, but.
So that's why there's a little downturn, is because I believe everybody's up and properly outfitted, and the ones that don't have and need new equipment, that would cover.
Makes sense?
Full-time, PPE, yes, Norm.
Back on the front page on income, there are grants of $4,999.
That was probably the grant that was for
But
PPE.
yeah, so we got $2,000, but wasn't it like $10,000? And we had to come up with 10 grand on it, wasn't $20,000 for all that stuff or something?
It was 21,000 and change.
And we had to put up half of it?
And we put up half because, well, I think we put up more than half, and then they had to transfer funds. Because somehow it went from 5 sets, and it was supposed to be phased out to 10 pole outfits.
Something along those lines.
And they just dropped 10 on us, and so we had an upfront expenditure that was then made.
Isn't one turnout gear like $7,000 or something like that?
No, about 2,500. Well,
Roughly 25 to 3,000, anywhere in that
What
range.
about the air pack?
That would be separate.
Okay.
That's about 7 grand in itself.
Okay.
$7,000 to $10,000 for a gear pack itself. So we're talking about just the gear, the
Yeah.
coat, the pants, the buckle boots, hood, gloves, helmet.
so moving on to full-time personal PPE. He dropped it from 4 to 2. I think everybody has new, so that's probably why he dropped that. If something does happen, we have some monies available to hop in the boat and.
Can you order, like, turnout gear, if the pants are fine and the suit part, the top part is not, can you buy just half of one?
You can, the NFPA standard is 10 years. It could be brand new gear with the tags on it, and NFPA says 10 years is the shelf life on it.
Okay, so.
So we try and keep both the pants and the coat. But once that gear gets passed down, there's people that might have something that's from 2010 and another
like
7.
with bell bottoms.
So do you use the Garanimals approach to this, like
So-
a bottom part of the dress, the upper part of the dress?
We do our best to size everybody up as best. When we get the new gear, everybody's sized.
Yeah.
I was having fun.
Okay.
Sure.
So to keep us on task, your animals,
So 2,000's good on that one.
That would
You get
be,
used to Garanimals.
that would take care of it.
so $2,000. Moving forward, snow plowing. This there again, how can you ever predict the weather? I think leaving it at 2. This year was a crummy year, as I think everybody could agree to that. His I mean, if anything, maybe bump it to $2,500.
It's not gonna snow as much.
But we're doing a lot more ourselves too.
We're getting there, but
But
there's,
that helps.
but this is south side. I mean, it's,
But it's gonna help here, doing some of it ourselves, and we still have south side in the other one.
so,
Where you guys-
I would just err on the side of safety and bump.
Yeah, if we're over budget here, it's good.
Yeah, so
So 25.
$2,500. Refuse, that's just for garbage.
Is that for Southside?
I would hope that anticipates, even though that dumpster at Southside is not actually Township dumpster. That is owned by, Mr. Hamp, Aaron Hamp from Subway.
But they're not in business there anymore.
Correct, so the dumpster's gone.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my, so we better change that.
So, we definitely have to give some consideration.
So $100 is
Way low.
way.
Do we
Double
share-
what we've spent, we're still under.
Yeah, but where do you put your trash now?
Or do you guys bring it out here?
I believe they're bringing it out here. They do have
Oh.
a can
So-
at the Southside station.
So,
I would have to talk to them, because of course I'm here.
Okay.
so we'll leave it at $100 for refuse. Telephone landline, He has a recommendation of 1,000. I say we leave it at that. Transportation and travel. He requested $2,500. I would tend to say let's go to 3, just because they're again ongoing continuation or continuing education credits for our full-timers. Jeez Louise, I thought I had to sneeze, but somebody beat me to the punch. Wowzers. Miscellaneous interest charge. If anybody could describe to me what a miscellaneous interest charge is, I am all ears. But his recommendation was 0. I do believe we'll just continue on.
Somehow we had $692 of expense on miscellaneous interest charges. Huh.
So, moving on to 205-336-921-000, electricity. His recommendation was for $4,000. I don't see any, that's their portion here, that's south side, and our 1/3 portion for M32. I tend to agree, let's leave it at 4,000 as proposed. Heat, 35 seems to have fit the bill and encompasses year-to-date activity. My recommendation would be to follow his proposal at $3,500. Water and sewage usage. There again, his proposal was at $800, which encapsulates year-to-date activity. We are actually on municipal sewer here at this office. They actually have both at Southside, and there is water and sewer at 32 West, but that's only at a 1/3 expense. Maintenance and building repair, he looked to bump that up. We've had a plethora of ongoing issues with garage doors. We know that we sooner or later will have to be making some larger actions in terms of how much money do we put into this versus, but that is a day's worth of conversation there.
Can you give me the 1/3 breakdown on the 32? Who are the 1/3s?
City, MDNR, and us.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Moving on, I tend to agree, it's an uptick for maintenance and building repair with his proposed